The text came at 6 a.m. Jake Morrison is dead. Sharon's hands shook reading it because she knew that the man sleeping beside her, the prosecutor she'd fallen in love with, the one who'd promised to protect her from everything, had just crossed a line he could never uncross. Woo-jin's voice was hollow when he finally spoke, no apology in it, just cold fact. I gave the order. Now Sharon had exactly one choice. Run from the man who killed for her, or stay and become an accomplice to murder.
I gave the order.
Welcome to Black and Soul TV. Please like, share, and subscribe. Sharon hit the pavement hard, her knees scraping against concrete. Rain poured down in sheets, mixing with the blood from her mouth. She'd been in Seoul for exactly 3 weeks, working double shifts at a convenience store in Gangnam, sending money back to her mother in Atlanta, trying to rebuild a life that her ex-boyfriend had destroyed. She'd thought she was safe here, half a world away from her past. She was wrong. The man who'd been stalking her for the past week finally made his move tonight. He'd waited until her shift ended at midnight, followed her into the alley behind the store, and now he was pressing her against the wall, his breath hot and rancid against her face. Give me your money, he hissed in broken English. Everything you have. Sharon's hands shook as she reached for her purse. She had maybe 50,000 won, barely enough for groceries, but she'd give him everything if it meant he'd leave. Her fingers closed around her wallet when suddenly the man was ripped away from her. She fell to her knees, gasping, looking up through the rain at the man who'd appeared from nowhere. Im Woo-jin stood 6'2", dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than Sharon made in 3 months. Water plastered his dark hair to his forehead, but he didn't seem to notice. His attention was focused entirely on Sharon's attacker, who was now pressed against the brick wall, Woo-jin's hand wrapped around his throat. The prosecutor's face was perfectly calm, almost bored, but his eyes were black fire. You made a mistake, Woo-jin said softly in Korean. His voice was silk over steel. This woman is under my protection now. The attacker gurgled something, his face turning purple. Woo-jin held him there for another long moment before releasing him. The man collapsed to the ground, scrambling away on his hands and knees before running into the night. Woo-jin watched him go with clinical detachment, then turned to Sharon. She was still on the ground, staring up at him with wide eyes. Even soaked with rain and bleeding, she was beautiful. Curves that made his mouth go dry, skin like polished mahogany, and eyes that held both strength and vulnerability. Something in his chest cracked open, something he'd kept locked away for 32 years. Are you hurt? His English was perfect, barely accented. He offered his hand. Sharon hesitated, then took it. His grip was firm but gentle, and when he pulled her to her feet, she felt the controlled strength in him. I'm okay, she managed. Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't. You don't need to think about that. Woo-jin removed his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. It was warm from his body heat, expensive fabric that smelled like cedar and rain. Where do you live? Hongdae. It's not far. I can walk. Not tonight. His tone left no room for argument. My car is around the corner. Sharon should have protested. She didn't know this man, but something about the way he looked at her, like she was precious, like she mattered, made her nod. She followed him to a black Mercedes that probably cost more than her annual salary. He opened the passenger door for her, waited until she was settled, then walked around to the driver's side with the fluid grace of a predator. The car's interior was all leather and technology. Woo-jin started the engine, cranked the heat up, and pulled into traffic. For several minutes, they drove in silence. Sharon kept stealing glances at him, trying to understand what had just happened. What's your name? Woo-jin asked, his eyes on the road. Sharon. Sharon Coleman. Korean? My grandmother was from Busan. She passed away last year and left me a little money. I used it to come here, start over. Sharon didn't know why she was telling him this. Maybe because he'd saved her life. Maybe because something about him made her want to be honest. Start over from what? A bad relationship. The kind that leaves scars. She touched her lip where her ex had hit her the last time, 6 months ago, across an ocean and a lifetime away. Woo-jin's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I see. His voice had gone cold. Is he here in Seoul? No. He's in prison in Georgia. Aggravated assault. 3 years. Sharon wrapped his jacket tighter around herself. I needed to be somewhere he could never find me. They reached her building, a rundown apartment complex in a neighborhood that saw better days 20 years ago. Sharon started to remove his jacket, but Woo-jin stopped her with a gentle hand on her wrist. Keep it. Return it when you're ready. I don't even know your name. Im Woo-jin. He pulled out a business card, black with silver lettering. Call me if you need anything. And Sharon, be careful. Seoul might seem safer than Atlanta, but danger finds beautiful women everywhere. Before she could respond, he was out of the car, opening her door, helping her out like she was someone important. Sharon watched him drive away, still clutching his card, still wrapped in his jacket, feeling like her life had just tilted off its axis. The next morning, Sharon woke up with bruises blooming across her knees and her lip still swollen. She made coffee in her tiny kitchen, stared at Woo-jin's business card, and tried to convince herself that last night had been real. Im Woo-jin, senior prosecutor, Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office. She looked him up on her phone and felt her stomach drop. He wasn't just any prosecutor. He was the prosecutor, the one who'd taken down 3 major crime syndicates in the past 2 years. Newspapers called him the Blade of Justice. His conviction rate was 98%. He was feared, respected, and apparently untouchable. And he'd given her his jacket. Sharon went to work that day with his card in her pocket and his scent still lingering in her memory. Her manager at the convenience store noticed her bruised knees and split lip, but didn't ask questions. Most people didn't, not when it came to foreign workers. She spent 8 hours scanning groceries, restocking shelves, and trying not to think about dark eyes and gentle hands. That evening, she found Woo-jin waiting outside the store. He was leaning against his Mercedes, dressed in another expensive suit, and every woman who walked past him stared. When he saw Sharon, something softened in his expression. You're hurt, he said, his eyes on her swollen lip. I'm fine. It's just a bruise. Come. He opened the car door. We're going to get that looked at. I can't afford a doctor. Did I ask you to pay? His tone was gentle but firm. Get in the car, Sharon. She should have said no. Should have thanked him and walked away. But there was something magnetic about him. Something that made her want to be near him even though every instinct screamed that men like Im Woo-jin were dangerous in ways she didn't understand yet. He drove her to a private clinic in Gangnam, a place where politicians and celebrities went for discretion and luxury. The doctor examined her, confirmed nothing was broken, and prescribed antibiotics for the cut on her lip. Woo-jin paid without blinking, then took her to dinner at a restaurant so expensive Sharon didn't recognize half the items on the menu. Why are you doing this? She asked as they waited for their food. You don't know me. I know enough. Woo-jin's eyes were steady on hers. I know you're alone in a foreign country. I know someone hurt you tonight. I know you're working yourself to death, trying to survive. He paused. And I know that when I saw you in that alley, something in me recognized something in you. What do you mean? He took a long time answering. I've spent my entire adult life prosecuting criminals. I've seen the worst humanity has to offer. I've built walls around myself so high that I forgot what it felt like to care about anything beyond the next conviction. Then I saw you, and those walls cracked. Sharon's heart was pounding. That's not real. You don't even know me. I know you're brave. You came halfway around the world to escape your past. I know you're kind. I saw the way you apologized to that man even as he was attacking you. I know you're beautiful, not just physically, but in ways that have nothing to do with appearance. Woo-jin leaned forward. I know that I want to protect you, and I never want anything. This is crazy. Sharon pushed her chair back. I can't be whatever you think I am. I'm just trying to survive. Then let me help you survive. Why? What do you want from me? Nothing. Everything. Woo-jin's expression was raw, vulnerable in a way that didn't match his reputation. I want to see you smile without fear in your eyes. I want to watch you build the life you deserve. I want to be the reason you feel safe. Sharon left the restaurant with his words echoing in her head. She should have been afraid of him, of his intensity, of the way he looked at her like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking his entire life. But instead, she felt something dangerous blooming in her chest. Hope. Over the next week, Woo-jin appeared every night when her shift ended. Sometimes he drove her home without speaking, just his presence in the car making her feel protected. Sometimes he took her to dinner, asked her questions about her life, listened with the intensity he probably brought to interrogations. He never touched her beyond helping her in and out of the car, never pushed for more than she was willing to give, but Sharon could feel the restraint in him, the way his eyes tracked her movements. The way his jaw tightened when other men looked at her. The way he positioned himself between her and the world like a human shield. "I'm starting to depend on you," Sharon said one night as he drove her home. "That scares me." "Why?" "Because you're going to realize I'm not special. You're going to get bored and disappear, and I'll be left here missing someone I barely know." Woo-jin pulled the car over on a quiet street and turned to face her. "Listen to me very carefully. I have never wanted anything the way I want you. I have never felt anything the way I feel when I'm near you. You've awakened something in me that I thought was dead, and I'm not going to walk away from that. I'm not going to walk away from you." "You don't know what you're saying." "Yes, I do." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face with one hand. His touch was gentle, reverent. "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and I'm not talking about your body or your face. I'm talking about the way you fight through fear, the way you smile at strangers, the way you make me believe in something beyond justice and punishment." Sharon's eyes filled with tears. "No one's ever talked to me like this." "Then everyone else is a fool." Woo-jin's thumb brushed away a tear that escaped. "I'm going to make you a promise, Sharon. From this moment forward, no one hurts you. No one frightens you. No one makes you feel small or worthless or afraid. I'll burn down this entire city before I let that happen." "That's extreme." "I'm an extreme man." He smiled, and it transformed his face from intimidating to devastating. "Especially when it comes to you." The next day, Sharon was working her afternoon shift at the coffee shop when a man walked in who made her blood run cold. Tall, blonde, American, with eyes that stripped away her carefully built defenses. Jake Morrison, her ex-boyfriend's best friend, the one who testified at his trial, the one who knew every ugly detail of her past. Well, Jake said, his smile predatory. "Little Sharon Coleman. Long way from Georgia." Sharon's hands shook as she made his coffee. "What are you doing here?" "Business. Seoul's a big city, but not that big." He leaned across the counter. "Does your new boyfriend know what you really are? Does he know why Marcus went to prison?" "Get out." "I don't think so." Jake's voice dropped. "I think maybe I'll stick around. Maybe have a conversation with that prosecutor you've been seeing. Man like that should know he's protecting damaged goods." Sharon threw the coffee at him. Hot liquid splashed across his expensive shirt, and he jumped back with a curse. Every customer in the shop turned to stare. Sharon's manager came running from the back, already yelling at her in Korean. She didn't wait to hear the rest. She ripped off her apron, grabbed her bag, and ran. She made it 3 blocks before the panic attack hit. Her vision tunneled, her lungs seized, and she collapsed against a building, gasping for air. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. She looked up through tears to see Woo-jin, his face set in lines of barely controlled fury. "Breathe," he commanded, his voice cutting through the panic. "Look at me, Sharon. Focus on my voice. Breathe." She matched her breathing to his, slow and steady, until the world stopped spinning. "How did you know?" "I'm always watching." Woo-jin helped her stand. His jacket materialized around her shoulders again, warm and familiar. "Now tell me what happened." Sharon told him everything. About Jake, about the threat, about her past with Marcus. Woo-jin listened without interrupting, but she could see the anger building in him. By the time she finished, his expression was murderous. "This man, Jake Morrison, is he still at the coffee shop?" "I don't know. I ran." "Good." Woo-jin pulled out his phone, made a call in rapid Korean. Within minutes, 3 black cars pulled up. Men in suits emerged, moving with military precision. Woo-jin gave them instructions, then turned back to Sharon. "They'll handle him. You're coming with me." Little will she know that the prosecutor will cross a line he's sworn not for her sake. Will she stay, or will she run? Hit the subscribe button and find out. He drove her not to her apartment, but to a penthouse in the most expensive part of Seoul. The apartment was all floor-to-ceiling windows, modern art, and furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Sharon stood in the entryway, feeling completely out of place. "You'll stay here until I resolve this," Woo-jin said. "The guest room is down the hall. Everything you need is already there. I can't stay here. This is too much. It's not enough." He moved closer, and Sharon's back hit the wall. "I told you no one hurts you. That includes Americans who should know better than to threaten what's mine. I'm not yours. Aren't you?" His hand came up to cup her face, and Sharon felt her breath catch. "I think about you every second of every day. I rearrange my schedule to see you. I've had Jake Morrison's background investigated, his financial records pulled, his contacts in Seoul identified. I've done things I've never done before, Sharon, because when it comes to you, I'm not rational. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm falling for you. Woo-jin's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I'm saying that kiss you've been thinking about giving me, I've been thinking about taking. I'm saying that if you stay in this apartment, in my space, breathing my air, I'm not going to be able to control myself anymore. Sharon's heart hammered against her ribs. Then don't. The words hung between them for one electric second. Then Woo-jin kissed her, and Sharon's world exploded. He kissed her like a man starving, like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. His hands framed her face, gentle despite the intensity, and Sharon melted into him. She'd never been kissed like this, like she mattered, like she was precious, like she was everything. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Woo-jin rested his forehead against hers. I don't do this. I don't feel this. You've ruined me for anyone else. Good. Sharon's hands fisted in his shirt. Because you've ruined me too. That night, they talked until dawn. Woo-jin told her about his childhood, about parents who died in a car accident when he was in university, about building his career as armor against grief. Sharon told him about Marcus, about the abuse disguised as love, about finding the courage to testify, and then fleeing to the other side of the world. They shared wounds and fears and hopes, and somewhere in those hours, Sharon fell completely in love. The following morning, Woo-jin made her breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast served on china that probably cost more than her monthly rent. You don't have to go to work today, he said. I've taken care of it. What does that mean? It means you don't work at the coffee shop anymore. He poured her coffee. Or the convenience store. I've arranged a position for you at the prosecutor's office. Administrative assistant. Better pay, better hours, and you'll be where I can protect you. You can't just rearrange my life. I can, and I did. Woo-jin's expression was unapologetic. I told you, Sharon. You're under my protection now. That means I protect you from everything, including poverty and exploitation. Sharon should have been angry, should have fought his high-handed behavior. But the truth was, she was tired of fighting. Tired of working herself to death for scraps. Tired of being afraid. I'll take the job, she said. But I'm not a charity case. You're not charity. You're mine. By the end of the week, Sharon had settled into her new life. The job was easy, filing documents and answering phones in an office where everyone treated her with respect. Woo-jin appeared throughout the day, bringing her coffee, checking that she was comfortable, his eyes always tracking her movements. The other prosecutors noticed, started treating Sharon like she was someone important. She realized with a start that she was, at least to Woo-jin. One afternoon, a detective named Park Sung-ho stopped by her desk. You're prosecutor Im's girl, he said in English. Everyone's talking about it. We're just friends. Sure. Park laughed. That's why he threatened to have anyone who looks at you wrong transferred to Jeju Island. Just friends. He leaned closer. Word of advice, be careful with him. Woo-jin's a good man, but he's intense. When he cares about something, he's all in. No half measures. That night, Woo-jin took Sharon to a charity gala at a 5-star hotel. She wore a dress he'd bought her, midnight blue silk that hugged her curves and made her feel beautiful. Woo-jin wore a tuxedo, and when he saw her, his eyes went dark with something that made her skin flush. You're stunning, he said, offering his arm. Every man here is going to hate me. The gala was full of Seoul's elite, politicians and businessmen and old money families. Sharon felt completely out of place, but Woo-jin kept her close, his hand possessive at the small of her back. He introduced her to everyone as if she belonged there, as if her presence was the most natural thing in the world. They were at the bar when a man approached, tall and handsome in that corporate way that screamed money and privilege. Woo-jin, he said in English. I heard you were bringing a date. He turned to Sharon, his smile friendly. I'm Choi Min-jun, corporate law. And you are? Sharon Coleman. American? Min-jun's interest sharpened. What brings you to Seoul? Family heritage. Sharon felt Woo-jin's hand tighten at her back. She's with me, Woo-jin said, his voice pleasant, but with an edge that made Min-jun's smile falter. Of course. Min-jun raised his hands in surrender. Just making conversation. She's beautiful, Woo-jin. You're a lucky man. After he left, Sharon turned to Woo-jin. That was rude. He was flirting with you. He was being polite. I know the difference. Woo-jin's jaw was tight. And I didn't like the way he looked at you. You're jealous. Viciously. His eyes met hers, honest and intense. I don't share, Sharon. Not you. Not ever. That should have scared her. The possessiveness, the jealousy, the way he'd staked his claim so publicly. But instead, it made her feel safe. After years with Marcus, who'd used jealousy as a weapon, Woo-jin's protectiveness felt different. Honest. Like he was afraid of losing something precious rather than trying to control her. The gala continued late into the night. They danced, Woo-jin's arms around her, their bodies moving in perfect sync. Sharon felt the heat between them building, felt the way he held her just a little too close, felt the restraint in every touch. When they finally left, the tension in the car was thick enough to cut. Woo-jin drove them back to his penthouse without asking. Sharon didn't protest. She knew where this was heading, knew that tonight something would shift between them. When they entered the apartment, Woo-jin poured them both whiskey, his movements precise and controlled. "Are you afraid of me?" he asked suddenly. Sharon considered the question. "No, I'm afraid of how you make me feel." "How's that?" "Like I could trust you. Like I could let go and you'd catch me. Like maybe love doesn't have to hurt." She set down her glass. "That terrifies me more than anything." Woo-jin crossed to her in 2 strides, cupped her face in his hands. "I will never hurt you. I will never leave you. I will never make you feel anything less than cherished. Do you understand me?" "Never." "Then kiss me." Sharon's voice was barely a whisper. "Kiss me like you mean it." He did. He kissed her like she was air and he was drowning, like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. His hands moved to her waist, pulling her against him, and Sharon felt the carefully controlled strength in him. She kissed him back with everything she had, years of loneliness and fear melting away under his touch. They barely made it to his bedroom. Woo-jin's hands were gentle even as urgency thrummed between them, helping her out of her dress with reverence, laying her down on silk sheets like she was something sacred. What followed was heat and whispered promises and Sharon discovering what it felt like to be worshipped. Woo-jin touched her like she was precious, like every curve was a gift, like making her feel good was the only thing that mattered. When they finally came together, Sharon felt something break open in her chest. This was what love was supposed to be. This safety, this intensity, this rightness. Afterward, they lay tangled together, Woo-jin's fingers tracing patterns on her skin. "I love you," he said simply. "I think I've loved you since the moment I saw you in that alley." "That's impossible. You don't know me well enough." "I know everything that matters." He kissed her forehead. "I know you're brave and kind and beautiful. I know you make me want to be better. I know that I will spend the rest of my life proving I deserve you." Sharon's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too. I think I have for a while. I was just too scared to admit it." "Don't be scared. Not of this. Not of us." Woo-jin pulled her closer. "I've got you. I'll always have you." Sharon fell asleep in his arms, feeling safer than she had in years. But safety, she would learn, was sometimes an illusion. She woke up alone. The sheets beside her were cold, and morning light streamed through the windows. Sharon wrapped herself in Woo-jin's shirt and went looking for him. She found him in his study, on the phone, his expression carved from stone. When he saw her, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or regret. "What's wrong?" Sharon asked as soon as he ended the call. "Jake Morrison is dead." Woo-jin's voice was flat. "They found his body in an alley in Itaewon this morning. Blunt force trauma to the head." Sharon's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the couch, her mind racing. "Oh my God. Do they know who did it?" "No. But they know he was asking questions about you." "About me?" Woo-jin moved to the window, his back to her. "Which means I'm a suspect. But you were with me last night. After the gala, yes. Before that." He turned, and his expression was unreadable. "Sharon, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Did you kill him?" The question hung in the air between them. Woo-jin crossed to her, knelt in front of the couch, took her hands. "I didn't personally kill him, but I gave the order to handle him. I didn't specify how. My men made their own decisions. So you're responsible. I'm responsible for protecting you." "Yes." His eyes were steady on hers. "I won't apologize for that." Sharon pulled her hands away, stood up, put distance between them. "You killed someone. Because of me. I removed a threat. There's a difference." "Is there?" Sharon's voice rose. "He was dangerous. He was threatening you. He was going to hurt you." Woo-jin stood, his control visibly fraying. "What did you want me to do? Wait for him to make good on his threats? Hope he'd leave you alone? I've seen what men like that do to women like you. I've prosecuted them, put them in prison, watched them destroy lives. I wasn't going to let that happen to you. This isn't protection. This is murder. Call it whatever you want. His voice went cold. I'd do it again. I'd do it 1,000 times if it meant keeping you safe. Sharon grabbed her dress from the bedroom, started pulling it on with shaking hands. I can't do this. I can't be with someone who kills people because they're inconvenient. Inconvenient? Woo-jin followed her, grabbed her wrist. He was threatening you. He was going to ruin your life, maybe even hurt you physically. How is that inconvenient? You don't get to decide who lives and dies. I do it every day. That's what being a prosecutor means. I decide who gets prosecuted, who gets convicted, who spends years in prison. The only difference is this time I didn't wait for a trial. He released her wrist, stepped back. If that makes me a monster, fine. I'm a monster. But I'm a monster who loves you. I need time to think. Sharon finished dressing, grabbed her bag. I need space. Don't do this. Woo-jin's voice cracked. Don't run from me. I'm not running. I just can't process this right now. She moved toward the door. Please don't follow me. She left before he could respond, called a taxi from the lobby, went back to her tiny apartment that suddenly felt like a different lifetime. She'd left her phone at the penthouse, disconnected from everyone, alone with thoughts that wouldn't stop spiraling. Woo-jin had killed for her, ordered someone's death because they were a threat. The logical part of her brain understood it, even agreed with it. Jake had been dangerous. But the emotional part, the part that had spent years being controlled and manipulated, couldn't reconcile loving someone capable of that kind of violence. 2 days passed. Sharon called in sick to work, survived on instant noodles and self-recrimination. She missed Woo-jin with an intensity that hurt, missed his voice and his touch and the way he made her feel safe. But she couldn't go back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. On the 3rd day, someone knocked on her door. Sharon opened it to find a woman standing there, beautiful in a severe way, with expensive clothes and cold eyes. I'm Ji-won, the woman said in perfect English. Woo-jin's sister. We need to talk. Sharon let her in. Ji-won surveyed the apartment with barely concealed disdain, then sat on Sharon's second-hand couch like it might contaminate her. My brother is destroying himself over you, she said without preamble. He hasn't slept, hasn't eaten properly, spends all his time working cases like he's trying to punish himself. So whatever game you're playing, end it. It's not a game, isn't it? Ji-won's smile was sharp. You're a foreign woman with nothing, and my brother is one of the most powerful men in Seoul. You use your body to hook him, make him care about you, then pull away when he does what's necessary to protect you. That sounds like a game to me. You don't know anything about me. I know you're not good enough for him. Ji-won stood, moved toward the door. But Woo-jin doesn't see that. He sees whatever fantasy he's built up in his head. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to go back to him, thank him for everything, and end this quietly. I'll make sure you're compensated. A visa, money, whatever you need to build a life somewhere else. And if I don't, then I'll make your life very difficult. Ji-won's voice went cold. I protect my family. Always. That means protecting Woo-jin from women who want to use him. I love him. Love? Ji-won laughed. You barely know him. Real love takes time, sacrifice, commitment. You're just infatuated with what he can give you. After she left, Sharon sat in her apartment, shaking with anger and hurt. Ji-won was wrong about her motives, wrong about her feelings, wrong about everything. But she was right about one thing. Sharon and Woo-jin had only known each other for a few weeks. Was what she felt really love? Or was it just gratitude and attraction and the desperate need to be saved? The 4th day, Sharon went back to work. Her co-workers avoided her eyes, clearly aware of the drama. She buried herself in filing, in answering phones, in anything that would keep her mind busy. Woo-jin's office door stayed closed all day. She didn't see him once. That evening, she was leaving the building when a man grabbed her arm. She spun, heart racing, to find Park Sung-ho, the detective she'd met before. We need to talk, he said, his expression grave. About Jake Morrison. I don't know anything. I think you do. Park guided her toward a coffee shop across the street. I think you know exactly what happened. And I think prosecutor Im knows even more. Sharon sat across from him, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she couldn't drink. Are you investigating Woo-jin? I'm investigating a murder. The fact that it involves my colleague makes it complicated. Park leaned forward. Look, I like Woo-jin. He's a good prosecutor, maybe the best I've worked with. But he's been different since he met you. Obsessive. Protective to the point of irrationality. And now a man who threatened you is dead. I didn't ask him to do anything. I know. But he did it anyway. Park's expression softened. Sharon, I've known Woo-jin for 5 years. I've never seen him care about anything except his cases. Then you show up, and suddenly he's human. He smiles. He takes time off. He falls in love. That's beautiful, but it also makes him dangerous. Because a man like Woo-jin, when he loves something, will burn the world down to protect it. What are you saying? I'm saying be careful. If this goes to trial, if evidence points to him, I can't protect him. Nobody can. And you'll lose the man you love to a system he spent his life serving. Sharon left the coffee shop with Park's warning echoing in her head. She needed to see Woo-jin, needed to know the truth, needed to decide once and for all if she could live with what he'd done. She went back to the office building, rode the elevator to his floor, walked into his office without knocking. Woo-jin looked up from his desk, and Sharon's heart broke. He looked terrible, exhausted, haunted, like he hadn't slept in days. When he saw her, something raw and desperate crossed his face. Sharon. She closed the door behind her, locked it, crossed to his desk. Tell me everything. The truth. All of it. He did. He told her about the men he'd sent to warn Jake, about how the warning had escalated to violence, about how Jake had pulled a knife and one of Woo-jin's men had reacted. It was supposed to scare him, Woo-jin said, his voice hollow. Make him leave Seoul. Make him leave you alone. It got out of hand. So it was an accident. It was my responsibility. I gave the order. I'm accountable for what happened. Woo-jin stood, moved around the desk until he was close enough to touch, but didn't. I'm sorry, Sharon. Not for protecting you. I'd do that again in a heartbeat. But for putting you in this position. For making you choose between your morals and your feelings. I've been thinking about that. Sharon took a deep breath. About what it means to love you. About what I can live with. Jake was a threat. He was dangerous. If you hadn't acted, who knows what he might have done. Maybe he would have hurt me. Maybe worse. So do I wish you'd handled it differently? Yes. But do I understand why you did it? Also yes. What are you saying? I'm saying I choose you. Sharon stepped closer. I choose us. I choose love, even when it's complicated and messy and morally ambiguous. Because the alternative is being alone, and I'm done being alone. Woo-jin pulled her into his arms, buried his face in her hair. I thought I'd lost you. You can't lose me. I'm yours, remember? You claimed me that first night in the alley. She pulled back to look at him. But I have conditions. No more killing. No more ordering people hurt. If there's a threat, we deal with it legally. Together. Agreed. And I want honesty. Always. Even when it's hard. I can do that. Woo-jin cupped her face. Anything else, marry me. Would you marry a man who killed for you? Or is that the moment you run? Hit that subscribe button and see what happens next. The words hung between them. Woo-jin's eyes widened. What? You said you'd burn the world down for me. You killed for me. So marry me. Make it real. Make it forever. Sharon's heart was pounding. Because I love you, and I'm tired of being afraid. Woo-jin kissed her hard enough to bruise, desperate and grateful and full of promises. Yes. God, yes. 1,000 times yes. They were married 3 weeks later in a small ceremony at a courthouse. Just the two of them, and a judge who owed Woo-jin a favor. Ji-won refused to attend, still convinced Sharon was using her brother. But Woo-jin didn't care. He slipped a platinum band onto Sharon's finger, kissed her like she was his salvation, and Sharon felt her old life finally, completely, fall away. The investigation into Jake's death continued. Park kept them informed, his tone apologetic but professional. There was evidence, witness statements, forensic reports that pointed to Woo-jin's involvement. It was only a matter of time before formal charges were filed. Sharon watched Woo-jin handle it with the same calm intensity he brought to everything, building his defense, calling in favors, preparing for the worst. But at night, when they lay tangled together in their bed, she could feel the fear in him, not of prison, but of losing her. I won't leave you, she whispered one night, her fingers tracing the lines of his face in the darkness. No matter what happens, even if they convict you, even if you go to prison, I'll wait. I'll be here when you get out. You can't promise that. Sharon kissed him softly. Watch me. I've spent my whole life running from things. I'm done running. This time, I stay and fight. For us. For our future. For the family we're going to build together. Woo-jin held her tighter, and Sharon felt wetness on her shoulder. Was he crying? The thought broke something in her chest. This man, so powerful and feared and controlled, was crying because he loved her and was afraid of losing her. "I love you," he whispered. "More than anything. More than my career, my reputation, my freedom. You're the only thing that matters. Then trust that we'll get through this." Sharon pulled back to look at him, moonlight streaming through the windows, illuminating his face. Trust that love is enough. But love, they would both learn, sometimes wasn't enough. 2 weeks after their wedding, formal charges were filed. Im Woo-jin was arrested on charges of conspiracy to commit murder, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice. Sharon watched from the courthouse steps as they led him away in handcuffs, his eyes never leaving hers even as cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions. She wanted to scream, to fight, to throw herself at the officers and demand they release him. Instead, she stood frozen, Ji-won's hand on her shoulder, the only thing keeping her upright. "He'll be okay," Ji-won said quietly. Her earlier hostility had faded in the face of her brother's arrest. "We have the best lawyers. We'll fight this." Sharon nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. That night, she slept in their bed alone, wrapped in Woo-jin's shirt, breathing in his scent and trying not to fall apart. The trial was scheduled to begin in 3 months. 3 months of living in limbo, of visiting Woo-jin in jail, of watching the man she loved deteriorate behind bars. He was released on bail after 2 weeks, a small mercy that cost Ji-won nearly everything she had. But the damage was done. Woo-jin moved through their apartment like a ghost, going through the motions of living without actually being present. "Come back to me," Sharon begged one night, finding him standing at the window staring out at Seoul's glittering skyline. "I'm right here." "No, you're not. You're somewhere in your head, punishing yourself for something that wasn't your fault." Woo-jin turned to her, and his expression was hollow. "I destroyed us. I let my need to protect you override my judgment, and now I'm going to lose everything. The career I built, the reputation I cultivated, maybe even you. You're not losing me." Sharon crossed to him, took his face in her hands, forced him to look at her. "I'm not going anywhere. Do you hear me? Whatever happens at trial, whatever the verdict, I'm yours. Forever. But I need you to fight. I need you to believe we can survive this. I don't know if I can. Then let me believe for both of us." She kissed him softly. "Let me be your strength until you find yours again." Something shifted in Woo-jin's eyes. The hollowness receded, replaced by determination. He pulled Sharon against him, held her like she was his anchor in a storm. "Okay." He breathed the word into her hair. "Okay, I'll fight. For you. For us. For the life we deserve." They made love that night with a desperation that bordered on violence, clinging to each other like they could hold back the inevitable through sheer force of will. And in the aftermath, tangled together in sweat-soaked sheets, Sharon felt something shift. They were going to survive this. They had to. The trial began on a cold February morning. The courtroom was packed with journalists, spectators, people who'd followed the case from the beginning. Sharon sat in the front row, dressed in a simple black dress, her hands clasped in her lap to keep them from shaking. Woo-jin sat at the defendant's table, his expression calm and controlled, but Sharon could see the tension in his shoulders. The prosecution laid out their case with brutal efficiency. Phone records showing Woo-jin's orders to his men. Witness testimony from the taxi driver who'd driven those men to the alley where Jake died. Forensic evidence linking Woo-jin's associates to the crime scene. It looked bad, really bad, but the defense fought back. They brought in character witnesses who testified to Woo-jin's integrity, his years of service, his unwavering commitment to justice. They presented evidence of Jake's threatening behavior, his connection to Marcus, his history of violence. They painted a picture of a man driven to desperate measures by genuine fear for his wife's safety. And then Sharon took the stand. The prosecutor questioned her for hours, trying to trip her up, make her admit that Woo-jin had acted out of jealousy or possessiveness rather than protection. But Sharon held firm. She told the truth, the whole truth, about Marcus's abuse, about fleeing to Korea, about Jake's threats, about falling in love with a man who made her feel safe for the first time in her adult life. "Do you believe your husband ordered Jake Morrison's death?" the prosecutor asked, his tone sharp. "No." Sharon's voice was steady. "I believe he ordered him warned, scared into leaving me alone. I believe things escalated beyond what he intended. But I know my husband. He's not a murderer. He's a protector. And sometimes, Protection comes at a cost. The prosecutor tried to shake her testimony, but Sharon wouldn't budge. When she finally stepped down, Woo-jin's eyes were shining with unshed tears. "That's my wife," he mouthed. Sharon nodded, her own vision blurring. The jury deliberated for 5 days. 5 days of Sharon barely sleeping, barely eating, pacing their apartment like a caged animal. Woo-jin tried to stay calm, tried to prepare her for the possibility of conviction, but Sharon wouldn't hear it. "You're coming home," she said firmly. "You're coming home to me, and we're going to build the life we planned. We're going to have babies and grow old together and laugh about this someday." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I have to be." Sharon took his hands. "Because the alternative is unthinkable." On the 5th day, they were called back to the courtroom. Sharon sat in the front row, Ji-won beside her, both women holding hands so tightly their knuckles turned white. The jury filed in, their expressions unreadable. The foreman stood, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a solemn expression. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" The judge asked. "We have, Your Honor. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find?" Sharon stopped breathing. The foreman looked directly at Woo-jin. "Not guilty." The courtroom erupted. Sharon burst into tears, Ji-won beside her sobbing with relief. Woo-jin closed his eyes, his shoulders sagging like puppet strings had been cut. "Not guilty." "On the charges of abuse of power and obstruction of justice?" The judge continued. "Guilty," the foreman said. "But we recommend leniency given the circumstances." Woo-jin had acted to protect his wife from a credible threat. While his methods were questionable, his motives were understandable. The judge deliberated for what felt like hours. Finally, he spoke. "Im Woo-jin, you have been found guilty of abuse of power and obstruction of justice. I hereby sentence you to 2 years probation, 100 hours of community service, and permanent revocation of your license to practice law. You will not serve jail time." Sharon didn't hear the rest. She was out of her seat, running to Woo-jin, throwing her arms around him as reporters shouted questions and cameras flashed. He held her so tight she could barely breathe, his face buried in her neck. "We did it," he whispered. "We survived." Life after the trial was different. Woo-jin couldn't be a prosecutor anymore, couldn't practice law at all. But Ji-won hired him to run the legal compliance department of her company, a desk job that paid well and kept him busy. Sharon finished her degree, started working toward becoming a social worker, helping other women escape abusive relationships. They moved into a smaller apartment, nothing like the penthouse but cozy and warm in theirs. And slowly, painfully, they began to heal. 6 months after the trial, Sharon started feeling sick in the mornings. Exhausted all the time, nauseous, emotional in ways that weren't normal for her. She took a pregnancy test on a whim, alone in their bathroom, and stared at the positive result with tears streaming down her face. When Woo-jin came home that evening, Sharon was waiting for him, the test in her hand. He saw it, saw her tears, and his expression transformed from concern to absolute joy in the span of a heartbeat. "We're having a baby," Sharon whispered. Woo-jin crossed to her in 3 strides, lifted her into his arms, spun her around like she weighed nothing. "We're having a baby." His voice broke. "God, Sharon, we're having a baby." He set her down gently, cupped her face, kissed her with such tenderness it made her chest ache. "I love you. I love you so much. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for fighting for us. Thank you for giving me this." Real talk, would you have stayed? Would you have fought for a man who killed to protect you, risked everything to keep you safe, then faced prison for those choices? Sharon did. She stood by Woo-jin through arrest and trial and public humiliation. She believed in their love when everyone else said she was crazy. And now look at them, building a family, building a life, building something beautiful from the ashes of tragedy. Drop a comment telling me if you're Team Sharon or Team Run. Because honestly, this level of loyalty is rare. What time did you start watching this? Are you Team Late Night Obsession or Team Lunch Break Drama? Tell me in the comments because I need to know when y'all are getting your romance fix. The pregnancy was hard. Sharon was sick constantly, exhausted, emotional. But Woo-jin was there for every moment. He held her hair when she threw up, brought her crackers in bed, rearranged his schedule to attend every doctor's appointment. He talked to her growing belly like the baby could hear him, told their daughter they'd found out at the 20-week scan that she was going to be so loved, so protected, so cherished. Sharon watched him transform from the controlled, feared prosecutor into a man who smiled easily, laughed often, looked at her like she hung the moon. One night, about 7 months into the pregnancy, Sharon woke up to find Woo-jin not in bed. She heaved herself up, her belly making movement difficult, and went looking for him. She found him in what would be the baby's room, painting the walls a soft lavender. He looked up when she entered, paint streaked across his cheek. "I couldn't sleep," he said sheepishly. "Kept thinking about her. About how lucky she's going to be." "Lucky?" Sharon moved to stand beside him. "She's going to have you as a father. She's the luckiest girl in the world." "I was thinking," Woo-jin set down the paintbrush, turned to face Sharon. "About names." "Oh, what about me, son? Beautiful and kind." Sharon's eyes filled with tears. "It's perfect. She's going to be perfect. Just like her mother." Woo-jin knelt in front of Sharon, pressed his ear to her belly. "Hey, me son. It's your appa. I can't wait to meet you. I can't wait to hold you and protect you and show you the world. I can't wait to tell you about the incredible woman who made me believe in love again." Sharon's fingers threaded through his hair. She's going to know how much her father loves her. How much he sacrificed to keep us safe. How much he fought to build this life for us. Woo-jin stood, pulled Sharon into his arms, careful of her belly. "I never thought I'd have this. A family, a home, someone who loves me despite everything I've done. You gave me that, Sharon. You gave me everything." Mi-sun was born on a snowy December night, 2 weeks early and screaming loud enough to wake the entire hospital. Sharon labored for 14 hours, Woo-jin never leaving her side, coaching her through contractions, telling her how strong she was, how amazing, how much he loved her. And when their daughter finally arrived, 7 pounds of perfect fury, Woo-jin held her with shaking hands and tears streaming down his face. "She's beautiful," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "She's absolutely perfect." Sharon watched him with their daughter. This man who'd been so cold and controlled when she first met him, now completely undone by a tiny baby. "Mi-sun," he murmured. "My beautiful Mi-sun. I promise you'll never know fear. I promise you'll never doubt that you're loved. I promise I'll spend every day of my life being the father you deserve." Sharon's heart felt too full for her chest. "That's my family," she thought. "That's my home. That's everything I fought for." The first few months were exhausting. Mi-sun didn't sleep, cried constantly, demanded attention every second. But Woo-jin was a natural father. He changed diapers without complaint, walked the floor with her for hours when she was fussy, sang to her in Korean until she finally fell asleep. Sharon watched him transform completely, saw the last of his walls crumble under the weight of fatherhood. He smiled more, laughed often, looked at her and their daughter like they were his entire world. One morning, Sharon woke up to find Woo-jin's side of the bed empty again. She checked Mi-sun's room and found him there, sitting in the rocking chair with their sleeping daughter against his chest. His eyes were closed, his expression peaceful. Sharon stood in the doorway, not wanting to disturb them, just watching. This was it. This was everything. A year ago, she'd been alone in Seoul, working herself to death, terrified of her past catching up with her. Now she had a husband who loved her beyond reason, a daughter who was the light of their lives, a future that stretched bright and beautiful ahead of them. Woo-jin's eyes opened. He saw her standing there and smiled, that devastating smile that still made her heart skip. "Come here," he said softly. Sharon crossed to them, sat on the arm of the rocking chair. Woo-jin shifted Mi-sun carefully, made room for Sharon in his lap. They sat like that, the three of them, as dawn broke over Seoul. "We made it," Woo-jin whispered. "Through everything, through the danger and the fear and the trial. We made it. We did." Sharon kissed his temple. "We built something beautiful. What are you thinking about?" "Everything. How different my life is now. How much I love you both. How grateful I am that you didn't give up on us." Sharon cupped his face. "I could never give up on you. You're mine, remember? You claimed me that first night. For better or worse." Woo-jin kissed her softly. "For better or worse. Forever." Mi-sun stirred in her father's arms, made a small sound. Woo-jin looked down at her, his expression so full of love it made Sharon's chest ache. "You know what I realized?" "What?" "I spent my whole life chasing justice, trying to balance some cosmic scale by putting criminals behind bars. But I was wrong about what justice really means. It's not about punishment. It's about protection. It's about making sure the people you love are safe and happy and free." Sharon, You and me, son, you're my justice. You're what I was fighting for all along without even knowing it. That's beautiful. It's true. Woo-jin stood carefully, Mi-sun still asleep against him. Let's put her down and get some breakfast. I'll make those pancakes you love. You hate making pancakes. I love making you happy. There's a difference. They put Mi-sun in her crib, watched her sleep for a moment, then walked hand in hand to the kitchen. Woo-jin made pancakes while Sharon made coffee, and they ate together in comfortable silence, their feet touching under the table. This was their life now. Quiet mornings, shared meals, a baby sleeping in the next room. It wasn't glamorous or exciting. It was better. It was real. Later that day, Ji-won came to visit. She'd softened considerably toward Sharon after the trial, especially once Mi-sun was born. Now she sat on their couch, holding her niece with surprising gentleness. She looks like you, she told Woo-jin. Same serious expression. God help us all if she inherits your intensity. She'll be perfect, Sharon said firmly, just like her father. Ji-won looked at her brother, really looked at him, and smiled. You're happy, truly happy. I don't think I've ever seen you like this. I never was before. Woo-jin sat beside Sharon, pulled her against his side. Before Sharon, I was just going through the motions. Working, prosecuting, existing, but not living. She taught me how to live. Sharon elbowed him gently. Don't make me cry in front of your sister. Too late. Ji-won was already tearing up. You know, I was wrong about you. About your motives, your feelings, everything. I thought you were using my brother. But you saved him. You gave him a reason to be human again. He saved me first. Sharon looked up at Woo-jin. In every way that matters. They stayed like that for the rest of the afternoon, the three adults taking turns holding Mi-sun, talking about everything and nothing. Sharon watched Woo-jin with his sister and their daughter and felt overwhelming gratitude. This was her family. This was her home. This was worth every fight, every tear, every moment of fear. That night, after Ji-won left and Mi-sun was asleep, Sharon and Woo-jin sat on their balcony looking out at Seoul's lights. Remember the first time you brought me here? Sharon asked. To the penthouse. I was so overwhelmed. I remember you were beautiful and terrified and trying so hard to be brave. Woo-jin pulled her closer. I remember thinking I'd do anything to make you feel safe. Anything to earn your trust. You did. Sharon turned to face him. You gave me everything I'd ever dreamed of. Safety, love, a family. You made me believe in happy endings. This isn't an ending. Woo-jin kissed her softly. This is just the beginning. We have a whole life ahead of us. Mi-sun to raise, maybe more children if you want. Growing old together, watching our grandchildren play. All of it. I want all of it. Sharon kissed him back. Every single moment. The good, the bad, the complicated. As long as it's with you. They made love that night with the tenderness of old lovers, people who knew each other's bodies and hearts completely. Afterward, Woo-jin held Sharon close, his hand resting on her hip. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. What? I'm writing a book. About everything that happened. The trial, the charges, what I learned about justice and love, and doing the right thing even when it cost you everything. Sharon propped herself up on one elbow. That's amazing. What are you going to call it? Redemption. Because that's what you gave me. A chance to be better than I was. A reason to fight for something beyond revenge and punishment. You're going to help so many people. Sharon's eyes filled with tears. Other prosecutors who've crossed lines. People who've made mistakes in the name of protection. You're going to show them there's a way back. I hope so. Woo-jin pulled her back down against his chest. But more than that, I want Mi-sun to have something to read when she's older. I want her to understand that her father wasn't perfect, but he loved her mother enough to become better. That's the most important legacy I can leave her. Sharon fell asleep that night listening to Woo-jin's heartbeat, steady and strong beneath her ear. She dreamed of the future, of Mi-sun growing up surrounded by love, of more children filling their home with laughter, of growing old with the man who'd saved her in more ways than one. When she woke up, Woo-jin was already awake, watching her with soft eyes. Morning, beautiful. Morning. Sharon stretched. Mi-sun, still asleep. We have maybe 20 more minutes before she wakes up, demanding breakfast. Let's not waste them. 5 years later, Sharon stood in their new house, bigger than the apartment, but still cozy, watching through the window as Woo-jin played in the yard with Mi-sun and their son, Jae-sung. 2 years old, and already following his father everywhere, copying his movements, demanding to be held. Sharon rested her hand on her belly, feeling the flutter of their third child, due in 3 months. Another girl, the doctor had said. They were going to name her Grace, for the grace that had brought them through everything, the grace that had transformed a prosecutor into a father, a terrified woman into someone strong. Woo-jin looked up from where he was pushing Mi-sun on her swing and saw Sharon watching. He smiled, that smile that still made her heart skip after all these years, and mouthed, "I love you." Sharon mouthed it back, feeling tears prick her eyes. Pregnancy hormones, she told herself. But really it was gratitude, pure and overwhelming. She'd found her home. Not a place, but a person. Not safety from the world, but the courage to face it. Not a fairy tale ending, but something better. Something real. Woo-jin's book was published that spring, became a bestseller in Korea, and was translated into 12 languages. He did interviews, spoke at conferences, became an advocate for reforming the justice system to focus on rehabilitation rather than pure punishment. Sharon finished her degree, opened a shelter for abused women, helped dozens of people escape situations like the one she'd fled. They were busy, exhausted, pulled in 1,000 directions. But every night, they came home to each other. Every night, Woo-jin held her like she was precious. Every night, Sharon fell asleep feeling safe. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Woo-jin took Sharon back to the alley where they'd first met. It had changed, gentrified, now full of trendy restaurants and boutiques. But standing there, Sharon could still remember the terror of that night. The rain, the blood, the desperate fear. And then Woo-jin appearing like an answer to a prayer she hadn't known she was praying. "You saved my life that night," she said, taking his hand. "In every way that matters." "No." Woo-jin turned her to face him. "You saved mine. I was dead inside before you. Going through the motions, feeling nothing, becoming the very thing I prosecuted. You woke me up. You made me human again. You gave me a reason to be better." Sharon kissed him, tasting tears, hers or his she couldn't tell. "We saved each other. That's the truth of it. We were both drowning, and we found each other just in time." They walked home hand in hand as the sun set over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Mi-sun and Jae-sung were with Ji-won for the night, giving Sharon and Woo-jin rare time alone. They made dinner together, laughed over wine, made love with the ease of long practice and deep knowledge. And later, lying tangled together in the darkness, Sharon thought about everything they'd survived. The violence, the trial, the judgment, the rebuilding. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been pretty. But it had been worth it. Worth every tear, every fight, every moment of doubt. Because it had led them here. To this life, this love, this family. To mornings filled with children's laughter and nights wrapped in each other's arms. To a future that stretched bright and beautiful ahead, full of possibility and promise. Woo-jin's arm tightened around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything. Nothing. How much I love you. How grateful I am for that rainy night when you saved me. Best decision I ever made." Woo-jin kissed her shoulder. "Claiming you. Making you mine. Fighting for us even when it cost me everything. Would you do it again? Knowing what you know now? Knowing the trial and the conviction and losing your career?" In a heartbeat, Woo-jin turned her to face him. "Every single time. Because none of that matters compared to this. To you. To our children. To the life we've built. I'd burn the world down 1,000 times over for you, Sharon. And I'd choose you every single time." Sharon kissed him, pouring everything she felt into it. Love, gratitude, desire, devotion. All of it. "Forever," she whispered against his lips. "You and me. For better or worse. Forever." Woo-jin agreed. Until the end of time. Outside, Seoul glittered in the darkness, millions of lives playing out in millions of windows. But in this room, in this moment, Sharon and Woo-jin had everything they needed. They had each other, had their children, had a love that had survived everything the world threw at it. They had their happy ending. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and hard-won and absolutely worth it. And as Sharon fell asleep in her husband's arms, she smiled. This was it. This was everything. This was home. The end. That's the story of Sharon and Im Woo-jin, a love that started with violence and desperation, but transformed into something beautiful and lasting. She chose the dangerous man, the one who killed to protect her, and he chose to become better for her. Together, they built a family, a life, a future worth fighting for. Drop a comment telling me what you thought. Did Sharon make the right choice? Would you have stayed or run? And most importantly, are you ready for more stories like this? Because if you are, subscribe to Black and Soul TV right now. Hit that notification bell. Share this with someone who loves dark romance. And I'll see you in the next story. Until then, remember that sometimes the most dangerous choice is also the right one. Sometimes love means fighting for someone even when the world says you shouldn't. Sometimes happy endings come from the darkest beginnings. Stay blessed, stay subscribed, and I'll catch you next time.